Everybody smiles in the same language. A smile, let your light come shining through.
Welcome to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I'm Sandra M., coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I interview people from all parts of the world about what happiness means to them. What are they in love with? In each episode, we'll give you a key to happiness to include in your life. And of course, we'll play a happy tune from my live Celebrate Happiness Roadshow.
A smile doesn't cost you anything. But there's so much good.
Welcome to the second season of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And don't forget to catch up on any episodes from season 1 you might have missed. Today we're talking with Barbara Bentree, the president of Jindo Jazz Inc., a media company that specializes in music-driven projects whose mission is to shift the global vision for women, animals, musicians, and the environment. Barbara has produced and directed 4 feature-length documentary films, My Choice, Dave Grusin, Not Enough, Origami in the Garden, all of which have been selected for 36 film festivals and won 23 awards. She is now finishing Should You Go? Barbara, a Minnesota girl, began singing early and toured in Europe with America's Youth in Concert. With a degree in music education, she always has had one foot in education and one foot in entertainment. In Los Angeles, she won awards while singing in the Goils, a 3-women group, and with the vocal jazz group Terra Nova, which she co-founded. Barbara also worked in production as a vocal music coach and music producer for shows at Disney Channel, as a consultant for Hollywood Records, and was the vocal music director and actress for several episodes of popular shows on Fox, NBC, and the Discovery Channel, and worked in producing roles for Disney ABC. She has been a member of the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and she has sat on Emmy judging panels for children's programming. Barbara has recorded a solo vocal CD titled Green, published a children's novella titled Free Billie, and is currently writing several original movie screenplays. Welcome, Barbara, to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. You know, I'm really excited to talk to you about happiness and how does it manifest in your life?
So much for inviting me, Sandra. I'm happy to be here.
You're welcome. So, I'm waiting to hear how happiness manifests in your life.
Oh, that's such a big question. For me, I think happiness can be a wide range of experiences, you know, everything from just sitting still, you know, and having a feeling of equilibrium or homeostasis, if you will. You know, your body's free of pain, your mind is calm, I have peace in my home, or it could be some like peak experience, you know, like personal achievement or a once-in-a-lifetime event, you know, like winning an award or seeing a phenomenal sunset or, you know, like a unique gathering of people. So it's a pretty wide range for me personally as to what happiness is.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to hear it's a wide range. I mean, a lot of people don't feel that they have a lot of happiness in their life. And so would you say that you basically look at life from a rather positive or open to what's going to happen and exploring, because you're so creative in what you do?
Well, I think that I hate to be a stereotype or talk about stereotypes, but I am a Midwestern Norwegian person, and not unlike Garrison Keillor, we can tend to see the glass half empty, but I have really worked and learned and practiced at changing that. So I realize now that I have a choice in how I see every situation, no matter how challenging it is. I think where I am now in life, I try to ask, where is the opportunity? Or where is the lesson here, and be grateful for all of it, no matter how, And of course, I do that to varying degrees of success, but that's my goal, is to try and see everything as an opportunity and a lesson, even in the darkest times,
Wow. So the concept here, if I'm hearing correctly, is happiness is a choice. Having it look as an opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So could you elaborate on that a little bit? Like, when did you decide or learn or try out choosing happiness, or to know that it is a choice?
Well, I think I've been very fortunate too. I spent part of my life in education, which is a wonderful opportunity. It's a treasure trove of understanding behavior and how your mind works. I also lived in California for 23 years, and there are some wonderful philosophies and teachers, and ways of thinking there. Things like I did the Science of Mind work and S training and Course in Miracles. I went to the Esalen Institute a lot, and they're just, I love California because it is so open to new ways of thinking and kind of always looking at self-improvement. And all of that study for me really did make a difference in that and I think it's compounded by mortality. At this point, as mortality becomes very concrete, I'm literally working at this, appreciating every little thing that I experience, because my time here on earth is fleeting, and I now I get great joy out of a cup of coffee, snuggling with my dog, hiking, even just having the ability to do things like my body's still working, to exercise or sing or even do housework or something. I can look at, some of these trainings, if you can look at ironing as a very Zen experience of sort of like removing the wrinkles in your psyche, you can see everything as just a metaphor for something, I was just sitting at a stoplight a little while ago, and I looked up and there were some birds flocking, and I was just thinking, look at how they're coordinated they are, and they're getting along, and they're getting ready for this big move, and it's like, wouldn't it be wonderful if everyone on the planet was that in sync, there's just all around us, the leaves turning and falling, it's just, there's so much, it just really depends upon how you see things and how much meaning you want to bring into your life. For me personally, that's what I'm trying to do, is to make every day as deep and meaningful as possible and as long as possible, because I'm very clear that there aren't that many left.
Wow. You have just said so many wonderful things. I think that most people maybe don't look at life from the standpoint of how you see things. And I wonder if that has a lot to do with the fact that you're a filmmaker. And so I would assume, I've never made a film myself or even a video, but I would assume that it has a lot to do with seeing your environment around you, whatever the subject of the film is in relationship to the environment. Did it increase your ability or your interest in seeing things and what they have, what meaning they have?
Yes, I think so. That's a very good observation. I've always known that I was a visual learner and a visual person, and it gives me great pleasure to just analyze images and try and come up with, these metaphorical themes or sometimes hidden, under the surface, but I'm trying to make meaning out of things. And I think, I'm also an editor, so editing is just about constant analysis of it and the visual image. And so I guess, it's probably natural that comes in, floods over into my everyday life. I start to see everything as a movie in a way.
And you observe it. In other words, you're talking about the leaves, for instance, and what was the other thing you just mentioned that you noticed?
Oh, flocking birds, or, the dormancy of winter coming, and what does that mean for us as people, and, or the tranquilizing effect of sitting by a fire that we have been doing since the time of cavemen. Why do we like to look at fires, and things like that. I just think there's so much opportunity to really slow down. I think that's part of it. There's a great quote by, I think it was Gandhi. There's more to life than just increasing its speed. So, and also the other thing that gives me great pleasure is to watch someone else's success and happiness. And that could be an individual or on a global scale, or, discoveries of things that heal us or make life better, and people who are focusing on the common good make me very happy.
Mm-hmm. So the common good, I've interviewed a lot of people, and many of them are talking about the fact that we are social animals and we really do need to be connected. The isolation is a deterrent to happiness after a while. And we're not talking about having a solitary time in your life or meditative time, etc. But if you are not connected to friends, to family, to people who have meaning in your life, it leads to depression. A lot of people have talked about that, how they got out of depression by connecting to other people, taking the time to really not only connect to other people, but to, as you just said, observe their happiness and help to contribute to it. That if you make other people happy, like the song, the song, being a wonderful singer, right? Make someone happy, right? And you will be happy too. I mean, it's rather a simple idea, but what do you think? I think it sort of works. What do you think?
I think there's a lot of proven statistics and information out there that at midpoint of everyone's life, something shifts. After you've been through your childhood and your, adolescence and your career building time and your having a family time and everything, and about, 50 years old or so, it's pretty dramatic that most people have it's when people have midlife crises and it's a lot of, what's it all about, Alfie, and so many people turn to, and I personally have also done this, kind of shifting from having a life that's about being of service and a little less about what have you done for me lately. So, service is, there's scientific data there that shows that being of service actually, is it oxytocin? No, yeah. What's the happy hormone or whatever?
Oxytocin?
Yeah, it's like, it actually brings you that happiness and increases the quality of your life, and you're usually part of a community of people, and exactly what you were just saying. I mean, I think that, and this has been going on for a long time. I remember when I was in education and we were starting to bring iPads into the classroom and things like that, everyone was so concerned that the kids were going to be isolated and everybody was going to be isolated at home with their computers, and of course COVID was the culmination of a lot of that. But now we're moving into this world of AI and everything, and they're starting to say that you could be having relationships with manufactured, quote, people or robots, I guess. And and I think for some people that might be an improvement. I don't know than having nobody, but the whole possible future for humanity is interesting. I hesitate because it's easy to sound like a curmudgeon and say, "Oh, things were so much better when we were younger." But I think every generation does that. But I think that also we're heading into unprecedented territory here, where what if there isn't that human connection? This is a dramatic shift in value for life, and it's just for me personally, for self-care, I'm finding myself really pulling back, and to a detrimental probably level of just not participating in social media. I'm trying not to watch television. I'm working instead to have real life experiences and with other humans or out in nature, and really trying to, or spend the time creating media that is positive and uplifting. I just think there are two kinds of media and maybe even jobs out there. There are things that uplift us, the human spirit, create a vision of oneness, beauty, love, equality, intelligence, and peace. And then there is media that is full of violence and darkness and revenge and misogyny, and it affects how we all see the world and our overall spirit. So even though I make media, it's really interesting that I find myself really withdrawing a lot. And, I go on Netflix and some of these streamers, and I can swipe through billions of dollars worth of production, and I can't find something that looks interesting to me to watch,
Yes, right. I'm fascinated by what you're saying, so I'm not going to say too much. I'm just going to ask two questions that I think are important, because everybody's talking about the media and you've just initiated this conversation, that the media manipulates people's minds, that they're not necessarily reporting the news or the facts, et cetera, but, the corporations behind them are determining as to what is said and so forth and so on. And they're all, I can remember Walter Cronkite, for instance. Even Edward R. Murrow. I remember my father thinking that Edward R. Murrow was like the epitome of being totally factual, totally honest. I can remember Walter Cronkite talking about the news, and, it wasn't politicized like it is today. And, of course, then, as you say, the media, the entertainment media is very, I don't know why it's so skewed to violence and et cetera. Do you have a comment on that at all?
Well, it's, it's very disturbing. And, I would say it's probably one of my biggest challenges in life in terms of fighting like depression or something, because it's just unbelievable to me how some of these projects are funded and supported and promoted. And I have these thoughts about people sitting around boardrooms and talking about, how much violence is in the film, and, well, we don't care, and, and then exporting it to the rest of the world. And I'm just fascinated by how people can make a living doing that and feel good about it, because you're just immersed in some really dark conversations and ideas. And I just think, and then they're being compensated at, just really levels, and there's something wrong with that picture, but I don't know how we change it, other than by, not watching it, I guess. Next
comment I'd love to hear is, I know you're a wonderful, wonderful singer. You're married to John Rangel, who's a fabulous pianist and has toured with many people, etc. So your life is very much involved in music. And as I looked at your bio and introduced you, you've been singing since you were in choirs and schools and stuff like this. So I'd love to hear your ideas, your comments on how powerful music is toward happiness, joy, well-beingness. I know it's used in therapy for many, many situations, but as a person who actually does it, you were in jazz groups, you're a professional. Let's hear what you have to say about music and how it affects an audience, how it affects you.
Well, I'm probably a little bit unusual. I mean, my husband has told me this as a singer, because I can't perform music that I don't truly believe in. I don't choose songs because, for example, this is my favorite example. I can't sing the song My Funny Valentine, even though I know it's a real favorite for people. But if you really drill down into the lyrics of that song, no offense to the lyricist, but they're terrible. I mean, it's like, you know, is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth a little weak when you open it to speak? I mean, it's just like, it's so unromantic. And so, you know, I can't relate to it. And if I can't, I have to sing things that I absolutely believe in the core of my being. I could never sing Love for Sale or That's Why the Lady is a Tramp. You know, I mean, I can't do it. I don't care how popular they are. So for me, that's where I'm always coming from. I feel this tremendous privilege as a performer to have people listen to me, and I don't want to squander that opportunity to, you know, do what we've just been talking about. You know, you can present something that uplifts people and inspires them, or bores them, or offends them, you know, I mean, to another level. And so I'm always searching for things that are provocative, and that's what music is for me as a singer. And I look at it as storytelling, basically. I like to make a program that takes you on a journey from the beginning to the end, and you kind of have maybe aha moments along the way. I put a lot of time and energy into anything that I do. As far as music in general, I was a music educator for many, many years. I taught little kids, adults, high school. My favorite was elementary school. I just loved being like the first experiences for kids, you know, and exposing them to a wide range of music and dancing and playing instruments. And I think it changes who you are, you know, and in terms of like performing music as a child, you become more self-confident. You know, until you do it, you don't really know what it is. And I'm also fascinated by the physiology of it. You know, I haven't dug too deep into this, but I know music therapy is very powerful. And I've seen some amazing, there's a movie called Alive Inside where they take music into nursing homes, and, you know, just people that are kind of out of it. They will play music from their era and they just come alive. And there's, you know, things about the just the vibrational qualities of music and how it can change the systems in your body. And so I think music is an area that is kind of a new frontier. They're starting to get realizing how powerful it can be. And I think also music can be an incredible influencer in film and all media. You know, again, I choose very carefully the music that I put into my films, so it enhances the experience, you know, and communicates on another level in addition to the visual.
Yes, I'm reminded of Tony Bennett, right? I think it was his 90th birthday or something like that.
Perfect example.
Right. Lady Gaga, right? You know what I'm going to say? Like, he just, as soon as the music started, he was able to remember everything and all those tunes he had sung for so many years, right?
Right. The amygdala in the brain is, you know, memory and language and music, you know, it's all in there, and it's encoded, I believe, somehow, and you know, it's fascinating to look at how powerful music can be. And then knowing that, when you're exposed to music that isn't positive and isn't, what is that doing to us? That's the question.
Equally powerful. Like when you were talking about the lyrics, not so much the tune or the music, but the lyrics of My Funny Valentine, they're not very empowering for women. Let's put it this way.
No.
Right.
And people always want to hear that song on Valentine's Day, and to me it's the most unromantic song there is out there,
Right, exactly. And then I have another question for you, which you mentioned something at the very beginning of our interview, and no one has talked about this previously, but you said a wide range of happiness in relationship to freeing you from pain. You said something about sitting still, having the mind be calm, and be free of pain. Are we talking physical pain? Are we talking emotional pain? Are we talking both?
Yeah, I think that, you do a little analysis, when you're quiet and still, you can kind of scan your body, your life, your mind, your emotions, and, if I'm sitting still and there's nothing in my body that aches or hurts or whatever, that's like happiness to me, I'm very blessed in that I don't have very many things. I've got a knee thing and I got a shoulder thing and stuff. And so to me, and those things are increasing, as I'm getting older. So, and I'm paying attention and I realize that they're going to increase more and more as I get older. So I am grateful that I can still walk, that I can still do the things that, may annoy me, like laundry and cleaning the house and, whatever. But, there's going to be a day probably in my future that I won't be able to do that maybe. And so when you start to have that sense of your mortality, it can be, it's the Buddhist philosophy of living and you have to embrace your death to really live, to realize that you are going to leave this planet, you are going to leave this body, you are going to be gone someday. And so if you had one of those counters, how many days do you have left on the planet, what are you going to do with those days? Are you going to waste them watching TV or, whatever, or are you going to get out there in the world and do things and enjoy things and play with people? And, it's a choice for sure.
I'm really fascinated. So now I know there are a lot of people as they get older and even younger people who have various issues where they are in physical pain or, again, depression. People who are depressed or unhappy with their life, with the world, with various things. So you being still, and I love the word scanning through your body, your mind, your emotions. Again, I'm sure you learned a lot of this from the Science of Mind and Esalen and the other. I spent so much of my life in California also, and I still go back to San Francisco in the Bay Area at least 6 months of every year for a long time because to me it's just where I live. I agree with you about they're always exploring and looking for new areas for whatever reason that seems to be in California, and especially for me in the Bay Area. But moving back to the whole idea of any kind of pain, if you get still and you really let go of a lot of things, I think you can release yourself from a lot of pain. I know that I have arthritis, for instance, but I don't really know it. And I was in a car accident, and it was pretty severe, and I'm in the hospital, and they scanned everything, right? And the doctor came in, and he said to me, oh, my, he said, your neck, aren't you always in a lot of pain? Because in your neck, I said, please stop right now. I don't want to hear it, because, no, I'm not in a lot of pain. And if you tell me, then the thought will be there, and I will be exploring where is the pain. So, I just don't acknowledge it. Let's put it this way. So, it's very interesting to me, the relationship between your thoughts, your emotions, and your actual physical condition. And then I wanted to explore I'm sorry, did you have something you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, I'm really fascinated. I think that that's really wonderful what you're saying, and I'm really interested more and more in body work that is about, like, there's that new place in town called Stretch Lab. I haven't been there, but one of my very, very healthy athlete friends says that stretching, and not just we all stretch, or we should stretch,
Right.
but I mean where they hold a deep stretch for a long time that allows you to release like you haven't released your muscles before, because you're always kind of that releasing that fascia and the tension. Or I remember in California there was a big thing about rolfing, you know, that like you get deep into the fascia and you're releasing not only pain and tightness and all that, but sometimes you're holding past trauma and emotional stuff. So again, these are the things that in the years I have left, I would love to explore, you know.
Yes, and I want to mention that when you say Stretch Lab in town, we are in Santa Fe, New Mexico. So this is where the Stretch Lab is. I don't know that everybody who's listening to this realizes that this is where we're located. Finally, I agree with you that people, when they get older, start realizing that they don't have a lot of time left, or they have limited time left. But there's been so many reports, I could say, where people who are older are actually happier because they're not pursuing whatever they think they need to pursue in their life, whatever their goals are, and they're not under the stress of, if I don't make this, or if I don't get this, that, or the other thing, or make enough money, or become a lawyer, or so they have a lot of stress. But once you get to a certain age, let's say 70, just for that, okay, people don't have these kinds of stresses anymore, and so they're happier. Older people seem to be happier. Do you think that's true?
I do. I am currently doing some volunteer work with the local hospital, and I work with a lot of older people, and I'm starting to include myself in that group now. And, I think that your priorities change. I feel that, I'm not as materialistic as I used to be. In fact, if anything, I'm on a big purge right now to, get my life very simple and sort of, again, preparing for my ultimate demise, and that I don't want to leave all this for someone else to clean up. And there's a great liberation in that, to not have as much stuff around you. And I'm definitely making this move from focusing on what other people think and materialism to, just how can I get out into nature more? How can I be with animals more? How can I be with my friends more? How can I join more communities of people that are like-minded? And, how can I help, basically?
I've been so fascinated by our conversation, and unfortunately, we're coming toward the end of our time. Maybe we're going to have part 2 of Barbara Bentree, and because we have so many different points that I would like to explore, but we'll have to save that for another time. And I'm wondering if you have any last thoughts that you'd like to leave for our listeners.
Well, I think more and more I'm so inspired by people who are trying to focus on the common good. I just returned from a trip to Norway, which was a real adventure for me and a trip of a lifetime. And the socialism that they experienced there, and also people even in this country, there are some entrepreneurs that have, done things like turned all the profits for their company over to their employees, or, I'm inspired by people who are looking to share and find the common good, as opposed to just how much I can get for me, myself, and I. And so I do like to find those positive stories and focus on those people as my inspiration. And like I said, self-care, removing myself from the news. And I know that, but it's just, it's what I need to do for me right now.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for being on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast.
What we eat affects our overall physical health. However, some foods also affect our state of mind. For example,
carbohydrates release serotonin, a feel-good hormone. High in sugar simple carbs give you a short energy rush, which often is followed by a crash. Complex carbs, veggies, grains give more sustained energy.
lean meat, poultry, legumes, and dairy are high in protein and release dopamine and norepinephrine, which boost energy and concentration.
Processed or deep-fried foods and skipping meals tend to leave you feeling down.
Make one better food choice each day. For example, swap a sweet breakfast pastry for some Greek yogurt with fruit.
You'll still satisfy your sweet tooth, and the protein will help you avoid a mid-morning energy crash. Try adding in a new food swap each week.
Newsflash, please sign up for your copy of our Keys to Happiness at sandramcknight.com. Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And if you enjoyed the conversation, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. Before we go, I'd like to thank today's guest, Barbara Bentree, for sharing her happiness story. And to share your happiness story on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast, send an email to sandra@sandramcknight.com.
Turn your smile on, you can't go wrong. You'll find that love is all around.